Hey guys, Mr. Gucci here, and this is an instructional video on how to operate the virtual density lab website and how to enter that information. Okay, I uploaded a video before that Mrs. Agustin did, but then I read somewhere that y'all respond better if it's your own teacher that shows you the website. So I'm going to do that right now. So everyone is doing this virtual density lab. Some of you are doing it as a full-length lab. Some of you are doing it as a Wednesday mini lab activity. But in either case, you're doing the same thing. It's just that some people are doing a bit more for a full lab and some are doing a little bit less for a mini lab. So let's walk through and show you how that goes. So you're going to find the lab activity either in your Independent Work Wednesday link or you're going to find it in the Virtual Density Lab post. Okay, so we're just going to open up this lab, and I've already done it. Okay, now here is the objective of this lab. There is an unknown substance that you have to identify based on its density. Now, the only way you'll be able to identify it is if you can match its density against the density of another known substance. You might recall in my video how I was able to identify these coins here as being made out of aluminum because I took their density and their density matched that of metal that I knew to be a sample of aluminum. Also, I could just look the densities up online. If the density matches the density of aluminum that I look up, then I can identify it. So that's your goal. Your goal is to identify an unknown metal based on its density or some unknown substance. Okay, so the way you're going to do it is you're going to go to this virtual lab that I posted. Okay, you're going to click this virtual density lab link. Okay, and then you are going to click this window right here, and that will launch the density lab. Okay, now depending on what your lab activity is, there's different substances whose density you're going to have to measure, but the process is the same every time. Okay, I'm going to turn this fluid into water first of all. Okay, that's not really, it helps. Okay, so here's how this goes. Okay, so let's take a look at this lab. The first thing it says we need to do is we need to take the mass of the red weight. So when the program starts up, we're going to take the mass of the red weight. And when I open up this lab, I just take the mass out of the water where it's sitting and I drop it on the scale. And it says that it's 2.5 grams. And so I record that value. Okay? I record 2.5 grams. Okay? Good. Now you have to figure out the volume of this sample. And you do that using the water displacement method. So here's how that works. A little reminder I showed you in class. We need to figure out if we drop this weight into the water, how much does the volume of the water goes up? All right, how much does it go up? And the amount that the water volume goes up is the volume of the weight right here, this little item. So it starts at 25.5 milliliters. That is the initial volume. So let me answer that right there. 25.5 milliliters is the initial volume. What's the final volume? Well, I'm just going to drop it into the fluid. Now, some of these items float. And so what you want to do is you want to grab them and you want to hold them under, or maybe drop them from high up and quickly look at the temperature, look at the volume before it floats back up. All right, 29.6. All right, 29.6. So the final volume is 29.6 milliliters. So what is the volume of this sample right here? Well, you'll take the final volume minus the initial volume. You can do that in your calculator. Do 29.6 minus 25.5. All right, so here's what I would do. All right, volume equals final volume minus initial volume. So the volume of this sample equals, what did I write down again? Let's see. 29.6 minus 25.5. So this is the amount that the water level rose. The volume of this sample is 4.1 milliliters. 4.1 milliliters. Okay? So then I would just enter that right here. The volume of this sample here is 4.1 milliliters. All right? Great. That's the volume. Now to calculate the density, okay? To calculate the density, you need to take the mass divided by the volume. Okay, now you see different volumes here. I've highlighted the volume that I want you to use. I want you to use the volume of the item, okay? Don't use the starting volume. Why are you going to divide the mass of this object by some arbitrary volume of water? I don't care about the water's volume, nor do I care about the volume of the water with the item in it. I just want the volume of the item. So in that case, the density here is going to be 2.5 divided by 4.1 because that is the volume of the item. Okay, so once again, density equals mass divided by volume. The mass was 4.1. No, that was the volume. Sorry. The mass was 2.5 grams. The volume was 4.1 milliliters. And so the density of this object right here, 2.5 divided by 4.1, 0.61 grams per milliliter. That is the density, 0.61 grams per milliliter. Okay, let's see here. 0.61, 0.61 grams per milliliter. Okay, so there you go. So that's your density, okay? That's the first density. Now, depending on which version of the lab you're doing, maybe you only have 3 more densities to do if it's a partial lab. Maybe you have like 8 more densities to do if you're doing the full-length lab. But you're going to go through and you're going to take some more densities, right? You're going to take the density of gold, which in order to do that, we'll take this object out and put it on the scale, and we'll switch it to gold, okay? There's the mass of that gold sample, okay? Then we'll dunk it in water. The initial volume was 25.5. The final volume was 27.6. A little bit of subtraction and you can figure out the volume of that gold sample. Then the mass divided by the volume gets you the density. Okay, hey, pro tip here. You can check your answer on whether or not you got this gold density about correct. The density of gold does not change. Okay, so if you look up the answer you get for gold density online, just search gold density, and you should get that answer. Okay, now I'm still going to have you record all this data, so you can't just skip to the end here. Okay, so that's it. That's how you're going to take the densities, and once you've gathered all the information you need to gather, then you take the density of that unknown object. Okay, this green one right here, you're going to take the mass, 18.58 grams. And you're going to take the volume. It goes from 25.5 to 31.2. So this thing has a volume of 5.7 milliliters because that's how much the water went up. And then you'll find the density of that final object. Okay? So there you go. Once you know the density of that final unknown, you compare it against what you've already seen. All right? Does it match anything you've already measured? If so, then that's probably a match. Or it's totally possible because it's randomly generated. Maybe the density of that unknown thing doesn't match any of the samples you've done, either because you didn't take the correct samples or because it's just different. All right? In which case, you say so. All right? And I'm going to offer a bonus point for anyone, whether full lab or partial lab. I'm going to offer a bonus point to anyone who can maybe identify what this unknown substance is if it doesn't match any of your samples. I provided a link with some possible densities. Do a search on your own and try and find what you think this substance could be for a bonus point on your lab. All right, good luck, everyone. Hope this helps. Shut off the video.